International condemnation of the Nairobi mall attack has been swift. UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon has strongly condemned the massacre, calling it a premeditated and totally reprehensible act. U.S. President Barack Obama called Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta on Sunday to express his condolences and reiterate America's commitment with Kenya to fight the terrorism. President Kenyatta's nephew and his nephew's fiancée were among those killed in the attack. Meanwhile, the Chinese Foreign Ministry has also condemned the attack in which a Chinese citizen was killed and another injured.
China firmly opposes any form of terrorism and strongly condemns the terrorist attack in Nairobi. We express our deep condolences to the victims and offer our sincere sympathy to their families. China will firmly support Kenya's efforts to safeguard national security.
Well, foreign nationals from Britain, France, Canada, India and South Korea were also killed. The U.S. says no Americans were killed, but that several were wounded. President Barack Obama is likely to face increased pressure to ramp up counterterrorism efforts against the al-Qaeda-linked al-Shabaab in Somalia. Joining us from the United Nations for more on the international perspective is Voice of America's State Department correspondent Scott Stearns. Hello, Scott.
Yes, Vincent.
Now, Scott, please give us a little more on the U.S. reaction to this attack in Nairobi.
As you said, President Obama spoke with President Kenyatta and in that telephone call said that the United States would help Kenya bring those perpetrators to justice. U.S. law enforcement, civilian and military personnel are offering their advice and assistance to Kenyan authorities as requested since the start of this siege at the mall. President Obama and President Kenyatta also spoke about the broader fight against terrorism in the region. As you know, the United States has a long-standing relationship with Kenya, and especially on the combating terrorism front, dating at the very least to the attack on the U.S. Embassy in Nairobi. The United States helps Kenya already on the issue of border security. The Kenyan-Somali border is among one of the most porous, and having already identified al-Shabaab as a terrorist organization, the United States has issued rewards in the past for members of al-Shabaab that it has accused of carrying out violence in Somalia. It would be no surprise if there were individuals in al-Shabaab that might be identified as being involved in this attack. You could certainly see U.S. rewards offered for those individuals as well.
Now, Scott, we know that the U.S. Embassy in Nairobi has periodically issued alerts against attacks in such places as the mall in Westgate. When such alerts are given out or sent out, what typically does the U.S. do, especially in relation to the officials of that particular country, like Kenya?
It's difficult to know the intelligence that brings about those warrant messages, those advisories to stay away from large public places. Oftentimes, those warnings are vague. I know that in Nigeria, for instance, when there was a suggestion of Boko Haram attacks, the advice against Americans was to avoid, large hotels, large gatherings, open spaces, and as you've said in Nairobi as well, the advisories against malls frequented by Westerners. Obviously, al-Shabaab chose this mall for a reason, to hit Kenya, to hit Kenyan society, to affect its already troubled tourism industry, and to send a message, I think, to President Kenyatta that his decision to send Kenyan troops into Somalia in support of AMISOM, especially that's what really turned the tide against al-Shabaab, that decision by the Kenyan president would not be without consequence.
Well, thank you very much, Scott, for giving us those insights. That's Scott Stearns, VOA State Department correspondent, reporting live from the United Nations in New York.